Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to hopefully make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today. Bitcoin is back to 107,000. Hype is back, or was back to $40, up 5%. It might have dipped just beneath that. Again, we'll also be talking a bit of memes. Pengu's up 13%, Mog's up 13%. Some other meme coins moving quite well. And Robinhood announces to catch a token, a big announcement at ETHCC, followed by a fireside chat with Vitalik. It is rumored to be an Arbitrum L3. We'll discuss that a little bit later. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs as usual, plus a general discussion on where we think attention is flowing and some interesting topics today that we just really want to talk about. So we'll get there in just a bit. I've got Legendary and Bread with me in the co-host seats. We are ready to get into it. But just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice. The market is very, very risky. We don't know anything for sure. So please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Monday. It is the 30th of June. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
And GM, doing pretty well. I've been to a TED event yesterday, listening to a couple of TED Talks. And one caught my attention in particular because the presentation started with a seed phrase. And I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And it was delivered by Mackenzie Sigalos of CNBC. And she was focused on stablecoins. And all she talked about is why stablecoins are the future of payment, from refugees being able to move funds out of the country to all the stats that we talked about on the show, stablecoin volume, flipping, Visa and MasterCard, and all those beautiful things. And that was pretty exciting to see that this is also now getting the main stage at a TED Talk.
That is interesting. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about stablecoins being one of the most important things in general, but just to clarify then, this TED set of talks was not specifically a crypto event, not specifically even a finance event, right? Because TED Talks are usually quite broad across a number of topics.
Yeah, it was show your colors was the overarching topic. So it was pretty broad and diverse in terms of what was talked about. And there were like only 2 finance related topics.
I like it.
The other one was also an important one, by the way, and it is for parents to actually talk to their kids about money and finances and to not be scared to touch on those topics, which was pretty cool as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I like it. That's pretty fun. Bread, what's going on your side, man?
Yo.
You
know what happened was, so I was getting locked in. I came back. I saw Carpenter of Web3 here in the chat, and he's saying good morning to my 3 favorite bros. And then it struck me. I said, you know what? I actually on Saturday spent an hour and 20 minutes with Carpenter and HK, who's another fantasy top aficionado. We went through my deck. We got things all situated. I upgraded some stuff. I burned some stuff. You know, we did a little gambling. We did a little rolling the dice. And I realized I didn't set my stuff for the week. So, you know, I was hopping back over to Fantasy Top. I was getting ready to log in register some of my decks. Yeah, that's what I did. Chilled over the weekend. Had that live stream with Carp. Played with the pup. I posted last night or yesterday, me running around the park with it. We're finally getting to the point where it's off leash, which is kind of fun. Yeah, had a lot of fun this weekend.
It's pretty fun. A lot of off crypto activities going on. How are we feeling about that as we reflect?
Yeah, how's your gym arc going?
Market?
Yeah, that's your signal, right? Are you on schedule?
I'm exercising, which means we're not in a bull market. But I'm not exercising every day, which means risk is coming back on.
Are you aware what a difficulty bomb is?
No, what's that?
Okay, so it was something that was used for Ethereum. You do it on testnet where you set an arbitrary date, or maybe it's not arbitrary, but you set a date where after this date, the whole fucking thing blows up, right? So it incentivizes you to get things in place by then, because if you don't, you're going to lose all the work and all the progress. And like, it's just like, it's something you put out there just artificially, like, we have to do it by this date or else. I say that because you're talking about working out. I also have a little bit of a difficulty bomb coming up with my workout stuff, which is my tattoo sessions. I'm bookending my sessions around going to Copenhagen for the Mega Mafia 2 stuff. So I have to be naked on a table. And like for me, it's like I need to probably get in shape a little bit. I need to button it up because I'm gonna be naked in a room getting tattooed.
Do you get self-conscious every time you have another big tattoo session?
No, and that's my problem because I'm so used to it now that it's just like it's whatever. And actually, like my ass is done, right? So now it's just like my legs, so I don't actually have to get naked. But people like when I'm there, they like to show us all of it, so then I have to get naked typically. Yeah,
you're gonna have to. And now maybe what's pretty different to the previous times is it's what you're known for, amongst other things. You know, there's some technical crypto analysis, but you also need to get naked because of the audience.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Did you see? So I met Drew in New York, which is cool.
Yeah.
Drew, for people in the audience who don't know, Drew's like, someone helps with editing and doing some of the video aspects of Modern Market. Hadn't met in person. So he and Shiv were hanging out doing a vlog. We met him and Fern at his pizza event. So that was awesome. Got some great pizza, all this shit. And of course, the one shot of me that comes out of that was just a picture of my ass with my badge because it was hanging out of my pants because it was like it was a giant fucking, it was awkward. And so I posted that over the weekend after going through Shiv's vlog. Like, of course, like we hung out, first time meeting, do all these hugs, get a picture with Drew, like all this stuff. And the one clip of me that makes it in there was so on brand for me. It was just a picture of my ass with my tag right next to it. So I posted that over the weekend. People had fun with it.
After the show, the timestamps. I'm listening to you, Brett. I'm currently in my mind thinking if Brett is getting naked, if that's an appropriate timestamp for the upload to Spotify and Apple Music.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah, I think that's fine. That accurately describes that little segment. Good stuff.
Phunky,
well,
has his hand up before we get into the main things, into the price action. Phunky, welcome to the stage, my friend.
Two things. Hopefully my new rig is working. And I'm really
sultry.
I didn't meet Shiv. I didn't see Shiv again, and I wanted to connect with Drew. But I will tell you, it's been almost a week. I'm still thinking about that pizza at Fern's place.
I am as well, but it's only because I ate like 17 pieces when I told myself I'd eat one. So like I did that and then had to go over to another dinner after that. So I'm like, I had an involuntary fasting like the next 24 hours because I just was not hungry. I didn't want to eat.
Phunky, you got some fans here with that deep and sexy Batman voice with your new mic. So going for the Batman effect. Not bad. Sounds pretty good. Right. Let's get into it. We've been chit-chatting a bit here, getting into the usual stuff to get you up to speed with everything that's been happening across the weekend. Starting with the majors as usual. What do you need to know? I am about to tell you. Bitcoin is flat at $107,000. ETH is also flat, 2.4. Still 2.4. ETH is a 2.4K asset. XRP is flat at $2.20. BNB is flat at $652. Solana actually moved up over the weekend relative to other stuff. It's up 10% on the week, which is more than the others. So that's at $150. In our other favorite alternative major cryptocurrencies, Hyperliquid is up 3% to $39.78. It's up 12% on the week. Sui is up 10% on the week, but just down 1% in the last 24 hours to $2.80. On the meme coin side of things, there was a lot of green in the last 24 hours or so. It's just loaded now. So we've got Doge actually being flat, but Pepe's up 3%. Barcoin's actually only up 1%, but it's up 24% on the week. So I think this is kind of wrapping up some of the moves over the last few days as well in this. So Filecoin's up 24% of the week, back to $1.10. Pengu's up 3%, up 60% in the last 7 days. So that's a big mover in the last few days. WIF's up a few percent as well. Mog's up 9%, up 27% on the last 7 days. So as you can tell, like the last 7 days or so, the last few days, there's been, a lot more green on the meme coin alternative side. The other one, the big one to point out would be Useless Coin.
Brothers. Yeah. He's been Useless, been up to the right. You're getting me checking. I had the closest brush with liquidation on Kaito. Like the thing was, it had been my first one. So daddy's our baby's first liquidation. It almost tapped me like 2 weeks ago, but now we're damn near break even again. Look at me. Dude, go bread.
Where did you long this? Do you
It
want to?
wasn't great. I longed it where it went red for a considerable amount of time. Last was on the 8th. So like if you go back, yeah, see that like that little uptick there? See that
Okay.
little more to the right, little more to the right. I started
So
buying into this pump to the right a little bit right here, this little pump. And then
how
I was
much
like,
leverage
sweet,
did you put on?
not like 5x. So like
Just casual 5.
so like, I don't have a frame of reference. Like I've never done it before. So I was like, is 5 a lot? Is 1 a lot? Like you know, and I got a little bit of collateral there. So like I had
5's a
some
lot less
liquidation
than
left.
100. So
It sure is. Dude, that's what I think they're like the Overton window of leverage is being moved because I interview people coming on to Meggy. It's like, bro, we just unlocked 100x leverage, 1000x leverage, no collateral, like all these like fucked up gamble mechanisms.
sure.
So I was like, 5's nothing, right? 5's or whatever. And then I did it. But yeah, like my liquidation was at 112-ish.
Okay.
And we got down to 116. I was puckered up.
No way.
Yeah, we got down there, but now we're doing good. We're almost green. We're almost green again.
Right.
Yeah. Look at me.
Back in the thing. You're gonna hold it all the way.
I mean,
You're just trying to
hate
get your money back at this point.
I hate to run through this trough and then not come away like shooting for the stars. So like I'll probably ride it for a little bit if it gets back up to those levels.
Yeah. Sounds wise potentially. On the other side, as I just mentioned, useless coin up 88% in the last week. This is again the one that Bonk Guy is pushing a lot over and over again, up 20% in the last 24 hours, up to 190 mil, which arguably, I mean, look at this chart, Legendary. What a beautiful chart. If you're just watching in on the screen, it's just like gently oscillating back and forth as it kind of climbs the mountain that it's painting for itself. That looks like a nice chart. I think this is going to go much higher. I don't own any of this. Does anyone else own any of this?
Nope.
Come
I
on.
feel like no one owns enough of this. Like if we own some of it, then it would mean other people do. But because none of us do, that means no one else does. Which means there's more people to buy in, right?
That's true. The chart that I'm watching is Liquid Launch. That's the one that I should have bought the dip on, but I was holding like such a significant back already that I didn't buy it. But
Let's see the chart. Are we looking better?
it's looking quite interesting. I mean, we went as high, that is the launch pad on Hyperliquid.
Gosh.
We went as high as 8 cents, went all the way back down to 2.7 cents, and now we're back at 5 cents. So it's not too bad, I guess. I mean, I'm still up significantly, but I'm not as much up as I could be on it.
Yeah, same. I wonder whether, I guess these beta plays are just, we were speaking about this off a couple of days ago, Legendary. Even for a trade like Hyperliquid, it's very much like, what do you think is going to happen first? Like, do you think Bitcoin is going to go to 120, or do you think Bitcoin is going to go to 90? Like, if you're trading this stuff on a shorter time frame, if you think Bitcoin's going to go to 120, then buying hype would be great because it's probably going to outperform Bitcoin, or buying Liquid Launch could be great because it's probably going to outperform the hype. But if Bitcoin falters and doesn't show as much strength, then you can get really hammered. And that's definitely what happened with Liquid Launch. Even though Bitcoin's just trading in the range that it is, which is like 101, or I think it went down to 99 maybe, but it traded down from like 108 to 99, 10%, nothing more. But then Liquid Launch just got hammered as hype also kind of reset as well. So definitely worth keeping that in mind. Okay, those are the coins. Getting into the headlines themselves, which we will dive into in a bit more detail in a bit. First part of the headlines is just majors pricing. Bitcoin is up again. We do want to talk more about like why we think these prices are going up. Sure, we're just in a range and things go up and down, but I do think there's some not just political stuff, but stuff that Trump is saying, which is kind of what's moving the market over and over again. So we do want to talk about that today. You got Robinhood announcing to catch a token, a big announcement at ETHCC. Brett's going to break down what we think that might be, or just like Robinhood's entry into the market in a moment. And then finally, as we said, memes are moving. So we'll wrap that into a general discussion on tokens movement at the moment. Ledge, anything going on the NFT side? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't.
Yes, in terms of the majors, there's not too much to report on. Basically, Most of the majors are down a couple percent, with the exceptions, not a major, but with the exceptions of Moonbirds, which are up 10%, almost 11% over the last 24 hours at a 0.72 ETH4. And then, in terms of new collections, already has been mentioned in the comments, it is the Megalio collection, which we talked about last week, which minted out at 0.025 ETH, 4.4K supply, just revealed a couple hours ago, did quite significant volume, 200 ETH so far over the weekend, and is sitting at a 0.14 ETH floor.
I like it. I like it. I
Right.
minted a few.
You're muted.
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm muted
muted.
right there. I was. It was. Oh, they revealed.
Yeah,
They've
it
revealed.
did.
Nice.
Just
Okay,
a
I
couple
gotta check
hours.
those out. Yeah. Well, I know they delayed yesterday. They just said tomorrow, but tomorrow's so fucked up for me being on the West Coast. You know, I don't know when that actually is. Yeah, they're number one. Two mega NFTs, top 10 Buns and Megalio. To be honest, my vibe on this is like I wanna stick to the alpha. So for me, it's like I wanna acquire some Buns, not Megalios here.
At this price point.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned some of these because I had the testnet stuff and whatever else. So, but yeah, for me, it's just like these guys rewarded Buns. I wasn't even able to mint both of mine because it went so fast. So like that sucked. But like these guys rewarded Buns. Well, the next collection is probably going to reward Buns. The one after that's probably going to reward Buns before they reward Megalio. I don't know. I just think it's probably safer to go after those. So that's what my urge tells me to do.
I think that's generally a good principle, right? It's generally a good principle but I do think that for Mega ETH, it will be healthy, and it'll kind of be determined by the team, just how they kind of keep putting themselves out there over and over again. Because in the end, a lot of what I'm realizing about NFT collections in general is that all these teams that are going to be coming out of Mega ETH, and this is the same for any chain that's launching, right? What do they're building product. What do they need? They need distribution. And the NFT communities are groups of people that want their community to be loud, get their message out there over and over again. So if any community can demonstrate that they have the engagement, then that creates a connection with the teams. So you have product, you have distribution via the NFT communities, and then those two can kind of work really nicely in tandem. And so I think my guess is that I agree with you. I think obviously Babuns came first, and they've kind of put themselves in a nice position here. And full disclosure, we've obviously like very well allocated to that. But you would hope for any newer ecosystem that's about to get built that you have multiple collections that can show and prove, and that's what we're going to look for from this one, right? Like, do you have the engagement? Do you have the excitement? Do you have the community? And hopefully it's not just a complete overlap. It's like
and the intern game is good. Like that, there's like a few vectors, right? There's like what the team does to like ingratiate itself with the rest of the applications. There's like how engaged the actual Twitter intern is, which both Buns and Megalio have good Twitter engagement. Like they're good with replies, whatever. So they can be in the thrust of it. And then there's like, do people PFP the thing? So like that, like those three vectors are the ones that are important. So if I start seeing people PFP these, then that'll be a good sign. But yeah, it'll be hard to overtake Buns.
It's interesting though, just like one more reflection on this, like before we get into the roundup. It's interesting how our analysis of this is so much clearer now versus profile PFP collections when they first came out in 2021, right? It felt like then
it was all vibe then. Yeah.
It was all vibes, all IP. Like, what are the traits? What's this? Now, when you see whether it was on Bearer Chain and you had like these specific NFT communities spring up, there seems like a very specific playbook. It's not necessarily a playbook, but it's more like, look, a new chain is launching. They're going to need a community for engagement. You then have to A, help on the social side, and B, make connections with the people who are building products. And it's like, it seems very, very, it's almost kind of professionalized, right? It's like, there is a new chain, who's going to be the main community or the few main communities. And it feels like that's actually quite, for an investor on the community side, that's an interesting opportunity, because I don't think it's been as formulaic before. And I don't know if it will continue. As soon as things get formulaic, you lose the alpha because it becomes too obvious. But I think at the moment we're in this stage where it's like, look, the thing happened on Hyperliquid. It's probably going to happen again in a similar vein. And then maybe you've got space for like another chain or two to do something similar. But then we're going to be running out of chains that are going to be valuable, because I don't think there's going to be many more after this. So you kind of have to strike when you can.
When did this start though? Was it Blast with the gold Megalios that started this, or because everything?
I think Retardio Cousins was on. Was that on Solana, or was Blast before, or was the gold Megalios before that?
I don't know. I don't know which minted.
Maybe it was like Berachain, Steady Teddies, and like a few coming out on Berachain. But
I guess Berachain before there was a chain.
Yeah, but then the IPOs really crystallized it for me on Hyperliquid, where it was like, wow, you've got a really, really valuable chain. This NFT is the main NFT on it. If there is going to be another valuable chain again, this is the model that someone's going to try to do. So that was our thinking.
It's the same thing that's going on with Kaito, right? It's like the very, very similar thesis where it's like, listen, all of these people have the problem that you called out, which is distribution, right? Whether it's a chain infrastructure problem or project, an application or whatever, right? People have tokens in this industry that they need to offload in some capacity, because it's such a culture here that you airdrop, you do whatever, you target people for stuff, right? And there's only so many good mechanisms for doing that, right? NFTs were the previous approximation of like social sentiment. Now Kaito is kind of encroached on that, right? It's like, okay, Kaito is kind of the same thing, right? Like I feel like I can target people that are giving social contributions to the thing. But that's like obviously getting a little diluted, but also like NFTs are broadly the same, right? But it's cross-platform. It's not just X. It's also in like Discord and like a few other places, and like taking place, like actually participating in testnet and apps and doing all this shit, right? So it's like it's very similar directionally, but it's not one-to-one with what Kaito is doing. It's just like, I have tokens to give away. How am I going to do it? Like there's only so many mechanisms, Kaito, NFTs, like on-chain transactions, and there's like a few other things. Other than that, that's it. Or you pay me for it, ICOs.
I like it. I like that comparison. As you say, there's a limited number of ways to distribute. Curious to hear English's take. English, welcome to the stage, my man. Been a while since we've had you up with us. What's your take here, either on Mega ETH NFTs or this like distribution mechanism to reward the community?
Yeah, I'll be quick. Yeah, I changed my morning routine, so now I'm on Spaces as opposed to YouTube, so I can chime in once in a while. Yeah, it's something that I've been tracking, like in mentally at least, if not so rigidly, but just kind of in casual thought. The evolution of NFTs, like as you said, there was kind of like the IP gaming. Is it going to be in real life stuff? And I think that the one part, and I think you got it right, but I think the one part that you missed, there was kind of like this segue transition period where people were like, you know what makes a lot of sense is token distribution in terms of anti-Sybil and all that stuff. You saw that with like Mad Lads. You saw that on Bitcoin when runes needed to be distributed. And so there was like this kind of like just kind of transitional period. And then I think, as what you were pointing to, later on this year, last year, what we saw is with the chains that had been, kind of just mentioned like, hey, we're coming out, people started to front run this and say, hey, we've seen this before. This is a great anti-Sybil way to get tokens out, to get distribution out. And so now with the new chains coming on, people front run that as opposed to just giving it to like the top collections that are already existing on those chains. So just something that I had thought about. And so with that being said, I think I'll just quickly finish with this point. As far as it not being like, once it gets played out, you won't see it that much. I think with this specific trend, it won't be so much that way, because I think it works. Anytime that there's a new chain, a new L2, a new kind of stuff, it's like, how are we going to get the people that are building on top of this chain, the actual tokens and stuff, so they can participate, whether that's a fat app theory or any other kind of version of that. So I think moving forward, this is the way that NFTs will work.
I like it.
I agree.
Yeah, I like that thinking a lot. On that final point, the reason why I kind of went back on myself is like, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a really nice model. It makes sense. It like brings product and distribution together. I don't think that goes away. The thing that I think might go away.
Just to make sure you're up.
Oh, hello, Oxy. I think you came off mute. The thing that I think that might go away is the variety of chains that keep coming forward, because I don't know how many more swings people are going to have where people are going to get a chance to come to market. Because I think we're getting to, I don't know. I think we're getting to a point where people are getting entrenched in the chains that we've got. We've got a bunch of good chains already. It's not about speed anymore, although I'm sure people need to speed things up in the future as well. But all these L1s, a lot of the L1s are not working out. Like we've seen that already. A lot of L2s are not working out. We've seen that already. So the idea that there's going to be more playbook runs, I'm wondering if that's coming to a close. And now it's like, right, pick from the ones that exist, or the ones that you think are going to do really well, that are coming in the next 3 to 6 months, because I'm not sure about there being enough demand for the others. Okay. I haven't even got to the roundup yet. Let's do the roundup quickly. Then we've got some other important parts of the conversation to get into in a moment. We have crypto market maker Wintermute receiving a credit line from Cantor's Bitcoin financing business. I was very interested in this, who expect to provide up to $2 billion in financing during its initial rollout. Cantor, obviously the firm of Howard Lutnick, who is no longer there at the moment. His son is running it. So interesting to see this kind of lending facility that they have going on. Hong Kong stablecoin rules to establish a licensing regime for fiat reference stablecoins planned for August. The capital requirements will be 2 times that of Singapore. So this is a question mark as to whether the main stablecoin issuers will be operating there happily. Metaplanet purchased another 1,000 Bitcoin for around $108 million. Spanish coffee company Venadi's shareholders approve a plan to invest up to $1 billion in Bitcoin. That's a struggling Spanish coffee company there. Final bits. Bitcoin Magazine CEO claims the Bitcoin and crypto tax amendment is being voted on as part of the big, beautiful bill. My understanding is from Phunky that is not going to be happening, based on some of the knowledge that he has, although maybe they're going to have to try to put that in a different way at some point in the future. I thought this was interesting. Texas Governor Greg, and this feeds into the next conversation we want to have. Texas Governor Greg Abbott authorizes Texans to use gold and silver as legal tender in day-to-day financial transactions. I think that's hugely meaningful. We'll discuss why in a moment. Wintermute announces a 3-month accelerator in London with $200,000 available for each team. So a lot of people praising that, saying we need more of these types of accelerators. So that is the roundup. Before we get into the main stuff, I want to come to Bread and Legendary in a second for their points of interest. Phunky, maybe you want to give some clarity on the Bitcoin potential tax amendments. What's your take here?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and give you guys some additional context. I know I mentioned it probably a week and a half ago when I had the BA member meeting. They were talking about there was something they were trying to wrap up into the reconciliation bill, aka the big, beautiful bill. And apparently the head of the Financial Services Committee, Mike Crapo, effectively said he will not support it as an amendment from Senator Loomis. So it would be something that would have to go through regular committee, which ultimately means it can't get into the reconciliation bill. It would have to stand on its own merit. So it's not something that's going to happen probably anytime soon. So that was something that people were really hopeful was going to happen. That's definitely not going to happen right now. So just that it's probably something that's going to be on the back burner for a couple of weeks at least.
Appreciate that, man. I appreciate the extra context. I'm actually not mad at that. I am not mad at people having to stop sneaking things into bills, like having 100 things on the 100 line items and then trying to sneak in 101st without anyone realizing. Like, I'm not mad at people having to make the argument for it, have a proper debate around that specific issue on which people need to concentrate and debate properly. So yeah, sure. I'm sure people don't want to, I don't know, whatever don't want to pay tax on Bitcoin or capital gains or whatever the specific amendment is. But if you want to make that argument, then people can make it on an individual basis, I think. Before we get into the main stuff, boys, maybe Bread, coming to you first. Anything else catching your attention out of the roundup before we get into the main stuff?
No, nothing really jumps out at me. I think we're all, I had everything that was bogged down last week from permissionless. We're going to talk about the Robinhood thing, which I think is probably the biggest thing on my mind.
Okay. I've got a big one. I've got an interesting one in a second then. Ledge, checking in with you first.
I like the Wintermute news. There's not too much additional detail to say on that other than the Wintermute CEO saying that this will greatly, that $2 billion credit line, BTC backed, will greatly help them in the operational business to hedge risks across markets and exchanges. But I do think it's very, very significant, and that also tied together with the accelerator that you also mentioned, kind of is telling a story of how Wintermute is trying to position itself both like in an institutional way, but then we also had the, what was it, Wildcat,
Yes.
the
Credit
private the private platform where Wintermute is also or was offering a credit line for yield that was taken up pretty quickly. So it's definitely always fascinating to see Wintermute in action, so to speak.
I'll give you a little color on. So, like you mentioned, their accelerator. Like you're seeing a lot of these now. Like obviously, we've been doing it for a year. We just entered our second cohort. You've probably seen a few other chains start to like offer up their own variations of a very similar program, right?
I think I know what you're going to say, but go on.
Well, and now Wintermute's doing it. I'm just getting some color from the inside. Is that like getting a lot of like knife fighting for talent inside of Web3 now for apps?
Oh, that's good though, right?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean it is, sure.
Is it,
but like
is it
that, like
above board?
yes and no. I mean, like it's it is whatever. I think this stuff is normal in a lot of these ecosystems. You hear like bubble to the surface on the timeline. People are like, "Oh, I was offered this grant from this chain and this grant from this chain." Like I'm hearing a lot of that stuff. Like Sonic Labs is straight up just investing in teams now, as opposed to like just giving them an accelerator. People pitching, yeah, like whatever teams every day to like just pull over their chain. But yeah, just like we are noticing that because we are hyper focused on applications and we are going after people that like, yeah, we're starting to have to step pretty strongly outside of Web3 because the pool of talent within the actual ecosystem itself is being, one, hard fought over, and two, is a little more shallow than we would like to admit.
That is very interesting. I suspect it's very helpful that you positioned yourself as so app focused from the beginning, though, because it means you probably got a lot of buy-in from builders in those initial stages.
Correct.
Okay, really interesting to know. The thing I thought you were going to say is that a lot of the accelerators that I've come across, it comes with like very strenuous terms, and I wondered whether some of the people coming to market now as accelerators are having more and more onerous terms. But I guess from what you're saying, if the competition is getting so hot, those terms are going to have to get more and more attractive for the teams, and so you can be less quote unquote extractive from the team because they don't need you as an accelerator even as much as they did once upon a time. So maybe those terms, which I think people complained about before, like, sure, we've signed up with whoever, but we're going to have to give up this amount of tokens, or we have to use them for advisory.
A lot of it's exclusivity. That's like that's the main thing, is people force exclusivity on these teams, which they aren't willing to go into, which, I mean, I get it. It makes sense. Like if we're giving you time and energy, once you build on our chain, like, so that's usually the most contentious point, is forcing teams to do that.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. That's very interesting to hear from the kind of behind the scenes there. One thing I wanted to bring up before we get into the main headlines then is this this tweet, Legendary, which I shared in the document. And this was a Trump tweet from yesterday evening, I suspect, US time.
Dude, he talks so weird. He's so weird.
He's really on one at the moment. I've been watching like a bunch of his tweets, and like the clips he's coming out with at the moment are 10 out of 10 for like comedic delivery. You just like, I don't know if you find Trump funny or not. A lot of people don't like him, but like the delivery and like the punchline aspect of it.
Thank you for your attention to this matter. Or like, we will end this, parentheses, kill. Just weird. He's
exactly.
So weird.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So in this one, I just get the sense at the moment that, setting the scene here, Legendary and I at the top of the year were talking about the dollar, and I guess everyone in crypto appreciates that the dollar is going down against Bitcoin, for example. That's like the long thesis, right? Dollar gets debased, Bitcoin goes up. That can happen in a world where the dollar is still the strongest world currency, though. And so when you go to stables, whenever you do take profit, you're happy to be in stables. The issue now that has happened since the top of the year is that you go into your stable dollars, because that's the main market for stable coins. But now the dollar is getting weaker, like a lot weaker against a lot of other currencies. Legendary took a portion, if not all, I can't remember exactly, of his stable coins and went into euros because that's his home currency, needs to pay tax in that, etc., whatever. But and is basically up 15% as a consequence of that move, which is meaningful. Like, that's a very meaningful move between the euro and the dollar since the start of the year. And the question I've been asking myself as Trump tweets things like this is the dollar going to stay? Is that trend going to continue? Is the dollar, yeah, fine. We all know the dollar is already going to depreciate against Bitcoin. That's a given if you're in crypto. The question is, what do you do with the idea of the dollar getting weaker against all the other currencies at the same time? And so, just for context, so this tweet that he shared the other day was, sorry, yesterday, he said, for all cost-cutting Republicans, of which I am one, remember, you still have to get reelected. Don't go too crazy. We will make it all up times 10 and with growth in capital letters more than ever before. So we've said many times already over the last few months, any semblance of trying to deal with the debt by cost cutting has been thrown out the window. Like, we can say that is not something that is going to happen now. The objective is to inflate the debt away, to grow the economy instead of do any kind of harsh measures to deal with the debt. So of course, on some level, that means you would assume risk assets are going to move. You've got interest rates very, very likely to come down if Powell doesn't do it himself, although Polymarket is suggesting that he should or will very soon. If he's not going to do it, they're going to be replacing Powell. His time's coming up anyway, so he'll get replaced. Rates will come down. But the tariff situation has created this environment where the dollar is now not as strong in the world. So my question, Legendary, and maybe I'll share some of my reflections as well. I know you've been thinking about this, is how are you managing that aspect of the dollar getting weaker? Sure, we know the dollar is going to get weaker against Bitcoin now. Dollar getting weaker against all other currencies. How are you thinking about that? How are you managing the portfolio?
I think the first question when someone asks themselves this is, what is your home currency? And the answer is totally different for someone whose home currency is dollars, as opposed to someone whose home currency is not in dollars. If you basically live in the US and you operate in dollars, it doesn't matter too much, because I would make the argument you already have a risk on portfolio. If you're in crypto, that is, you already have your BTC exposure and other things that you're speculating on. You probably don't need that additional layer of FX speculation on top of what you're doing. However, if you're not denominating in dollars and if your home currency is different to that, then this becomes a very significant question, because if you put $1 million in stablecoins in dollars and that then goes down to, I don't know, 850K, 860K, those 140K could very well be your tax payment for the last year. And that's very annoying to lose that. So if your home currency is not the dollar, then you should be thinking about having moved or moving your stables to whatever your home currency is, and just not have this long tail risk. And I looked over the weekend, because we talked about that last week, what analysts were thinking towards the end of 2024 of how the dollar will perform in 2025. And for example, JP Morgan had this beautiful article saying that dollar keeps defying gravity, is incredibly strong, and will probably continue to do so in 2025 and just get stronger than that. So the point here is not to attack JP Morgan, but the point here is to say it is so complex what happens, and it's so policy driven, and it's so driven by all the tariff wars and so many other exogenous factors, that it's unrealistic to think that you can basically forecast how the dollar is going to move against what currency specifically. And that is also the point that I wanted to make again. When I traded out of the dollar and into the euro at the start of the year, that was more a defensive move, because I saw the dollar was like so strong, and I expected that might change. But it was also a defensive move to make sure that the capital that I have in stables stays stable, and that to me means it stays stable in my home currency. So I absolutely did not anticipate that this move is going to be so strong. Now, if you look at it from the perspective of this administration, obviously a weaker dollar is helping with exports being cheaper or imports being cheaper for countries importing stuff that the US is exporting because their home currencies are getting stronger and stronger. So that is or might be a reason why we currently, why the US is currently liking a bit of a weaker dollar. But again, I think it's so impossible to just forecast where this journey is going and how all the other factors, macro tariffs, Fed decisions will play into that, that I think you shouldn't be overly worried about what the dollar does if that's your home currency. And if it's not, you should have exposure to your local currency as well.
I don't know. I think so. I think a lot of the thinking is good there. I just wonder whether, because dollar is not my home currency either. So in some ways, I have to do a little bit of a similar strategy to you out of necessity. Hypothetically, and fortunately, we've got someone for whom the dollar is the home currency, so we can ask him in a second. But I think even if the dollar was my home currency, which it isn't, I feel like this set of environments specifically is making me think more, and maybe I should have done this earlier, but it's happening now, and we have to deal with it just how it is. I'm thinking more and more about gold as well. Like I've never really had a significant gold position. I just feel like this is the right time to have some or more along with Bitcoin. Yeah, it's not something I've considered before. I do think that the trend continues basically. And as a consequence, because look, as you said, if America wants to grow out, we will to quote Trump, we will make it all up times 10 with growth, capital letters. He does have a habit of just telling us what they're thinking. A weak dollar is nicer for that, right? It's going to help with moving their product around the world if the dollar is weaker. So I just think it's a great time to hold assets more than ever. I know we're already in that environment because we were bullish on crypto and think the dollar's going down, but like I think out of the proportion of things that I have in stables and think like, right, this is my stable stash in order to do whatever, I feel like I'm going to like take a slice out of that and put some in gold, maybe even some more into Bitcoin. I haven't thought it through entirely yet, wanted to have this conversation, but yeah, it's just like taking the stable stack and just allocating a little bit in that way.
Question for you on that.
Yes.
Because for you, the situation is different. Again, you don't have a good pound stablecoin. There is just simply none to my knowledge. If there were one, would you move your dollar stable stack into pounds? Like pound has moved from $1 to £1 from 1.22 to 1.37. So like basically down 10-ish, 12-ish% on against the dollar.
I guess so. Yeah, like so as part of this, there will be a proportion that has to go to pounds as well. Gotcha. If I think the trend is going to continue, then yeah, I would take some into pounds. But then does it need to be on chain? Should it just go to the bank? Like I'd probably just stick it in the bank, to be honest, if it's not going to be able to do anything. And if it's like earmarked to be the thing that I don't want to do personally, and this I'm sure will resonate with people because I know that I'm feeling this. I do not want to become an FX trader. Like this is why when we were having a different chat in the group, one of the group chats, Ledge, when people were saying, "Oh, ask me, are there any other currencies that you're interested in?" It's like, no, I don't care. I don't want to buy the Singaporean dollar. And then because every other trade in my view would never be a long-term trade. It's then another type of trade that I'm managing. I don't believe the Singaporean dollar will become the best currency in the world. It's only the dollar, which is getting weaker at the moment. Anything else that kind of emerges, I don't believe would be a long-term trade. It's good for now. And then I'm going to have to trade out of it again. So I'm not interested in a trade for another currency. I'm only interested in getting the thing that I need to pay my taxes and take care of some costs in the local currency plus gold and Bitcoin, in my opinion. That's how I'd be thinking about it. Phunky, your hand is raised. Be very curious how you're thinking about it. And then Brad, I know you've got some thoughts here as well.
Yeah, it doesn't affect me, obviously, right? The same what you guys are already talking about in terms of it is my home currency. But I think it's interesting because Trump is effectively reiterating the message that Bessent was carrying forward a few months ago, that don't worry about the debt. We'll grow our way out of this. And it's also interesting. I'm sure people who have been paying attention to Trump are enjoying the irony of this man for whom many years continued to say, I like the US dollar. And when he would slam Bitcoin and other things, now he's completely pivoted. And what's interesting too, people have to remember that everything that's happened up to this point from the last, say, 2 years, from 23 to through now, the dollar was rising and Bitcoin pulled off going to 6 figures. What is that going to look like when we get into a true environment when the DXY is just absolutely collapsing? Because this is going to be something I think people are not prepared for in terms of the way that assets are going to rock. So completely agree with you, B, that, you know, the position now is to be in assets. Even myself, I moved a chunk of our, what I call like safety net that we keep in an Amex high yield savings account, which was paying, you know, like 4%, nothing crazy. And I took like half that cash out and I moved it into stable coins just to go farm them on hydration, because that's the other way that you can always keep up with the declining value of the dollar. If you're earning over 20%, you're already killing it. So you don't really have to worry about that as much.
Agree. There are kind of on-chain ways to really outperform. It feels pretty bad to have to find like a 20% thing in order to keep parity, right? Like it's a pretty tough environment we're moving into. Brad, curious for your thoughts as well as an American home currency, the dollar. How are you approaching or thinking about this, or have you been thinking about it? What are your thoughts?
No, so as for my own exposure, no. Like, I mean, but to be honest, I'm also not like a heavy stables person. Most of my shit is just long-term invested, and then I don't spend a lot for my lifestyle. So like what I get in as like salary payment lifestyle stuff is what's there for safety net. So like I have a decent amount in my bank to like handle any exchange or any payments that need to come up. What I was going to comment on was I actually listened to a podcast this weekend from Paulo, the founder of Tether, and kind of his vision of all of this stuff and his like Tether's role in everything. You were mentioning gold. Tether Gold is something that has come to the market recently, right? So like they offer that on chain for people. And I found the mindset of Tether specifically, and Paulo, is just that they view themselves as a stable company, not as a stable coin company. And so they're dealing in all things stability, which means he expanded on like what he thinks about Bitcoin and gold, which is like the two truly provably scarce things in the universe. So like he loves it. But he is investing in and pushing towards the stability of all things. So whether it's like communication, right? They have a chat app that allows for people to communicate in a encrypted manner all across the world. They're talking about stability of energy, where he is trying to invest in companies that are delivering energy to areas that are typically fragile with their actual energy. And it's like, because he believes stability is what creates freedom forever, or stability of knowledge, right? He's like all of these things. He's like, because they have so much money, like how the hell, like what do you even invest in? Like their vision is so grand that like he is dealing in stability, no longer like atoms of the world, right? He is just like trying to position his company as at the forefront of all things nation state, basically.
Really interesting. What a great, you can see how perfect that pitch is, you know, in a world that is increasingly unstable. Like to have the brand
LLMs, right? Yeah. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's nice. Right. We have gone, that's almost the whole show. Lost track of
5 minutes left.
Lost track of time there. I think I went on a little bit, but I think, look, that's what we try to do on the show is obviously like surface the most important things. And I put this tweet out over the weekend where I kind of reflected back over the year, and we've basically nailed certain things. And the whole point is sometimes, sure, there'll be 3 headlines that we could talk about, but if the key thing is something else, like this thematic thing that is happening, then yeah, sure, we need to dive into that a bit more. I do think this is something we're talking about. But then the only final headline that I think would be helpful here is maybe this Robinhood thing, Brad. We've got 5 minutes left. Maybe you could take us through that and just explore, because we were talking Robinhood and Coinbase and versus Hyperliquid, and there's definitely plans going on from these more more centralized Web2 companies to take a big chunk and slice out of crypto activity. They've got a big announcement coming up. So what do we need to know in this? And then let's think what the consequences are.
Yeah, I wish I could go back. Like Gort has a great quote that's like, I really think you guys spent the last 10 years creating a bunch of open source software so that Robinhood could come in and make everyone make money off everyone. Which is like, I think, kind of applicable here. So the headline itself is just that, like, you know, there is an announcement that Robinhood is going to be announcing at ETC, which is, I think today is the actual timing of it. And everyone was speculating on what they think it's going to be. Yeah, so on the 30th at 5 CST. CEST. And everyone's speculating because it tags some off-chain labs, which is the company behind Arbitrum, that Robinhood is going to elect to develop a chain within the Arbitrum ecosystem. So then speculation becomes, okay, what's going to be? What's the actual like specific construction? Is it going to be an L2 that settles to Ethereum, much like Base and Optimism are in the same collective, but both are L2s that settle directly to Ethereum? Or is it going to be an Arbitrum Orbit, which is an L3 that settles down to Arbitrum mainnet and not directly to Ethereum? And then there's the speculation around like perps. Perps are coming for Robinhood, like what they're going to integrate into the actual application itself. All that stuff comes today. So like this is all speculation until then. But I don't know, man. Like, I don't think this solves any problems. I've seen a lot of bull posting with Ethereum, like, oh my God, Robinhood chose Ethereum ecosystem over Solana because that was the back and forth that they made. And it's like, yeah, that's great, but look at what Base has, right? Like you have Base and you have Kraken, you have all these things that are electing for Ethereum. And, you know, the question is always, but everyone gets confused. It's just like, is Ethereum winning on like the technical alignment thing? Yes. Is the thing that people are going to do going to lead to asset appreciation of Ethereum, the token? Maybe. And like that's the thing. So it's going to be frustrating. Yes, you have a directional win for Ethereum, but I don't know that you have a directional win for ETH, the asset. We'll find out today.
We'll find out today. Legendary. Thanks for that summary, Brad. I think that's very helpful. Ledge, you want to come in with a take here?
Very much agree with what Brett just said. Whatever comes out today, I'm pretty sure that you will report on the price action tomorrow, and you will say something along the lines that ETH is at 2.
ETH is at 2.4K.
Yeah,
2.4K
something like
that. Plus or minus 1 or 2%, but it's still 2.4K. Okay. What about, okay, we're kind of running out of time. I guess the only thing that I've been thinking about, and maybe growing stronger in my confidence pre-announcement, because obviously you need to have some big conviction. There's no point waiting for the conviction of the market proving it to you. I do not think, this is what I said last week, I still do not think that whether it's Coinbase perps or Robinhood perps are going to have a meaningful effect on Hyperliquid. I laugh as I say that because it's like, okay, fine, I have a lot of hype, so I hope that's true. But I just don't think it's the case.
I agree. I think they're different cohorts for sure. Like,
yeah,
which is fine. Yeah. The Robinhood announcement makes me want to buy Hood. It does not make me want to buy Ethereum or ARB.
Yeah, exactly. And Hood, by the way, has been, if you look at the Hood chart, it looks glorious. Absolutely glorious.
Excited.
I bought some on Friday.
Did you? I mean, look, we've been speaking just as we close, right? Like, we've been talking a lot about where the activity is going to go, and it's been starting to suggest the activity is going to go to the damn stock market, guys. Like, let's just talk through this chart for.
Is the stock market our alt season? Like, is that it?
That is exactly what we're suggesting.
If you look at Bitcoin dominance real quick, we had this dip from 65 to 62% in May, but we are now back to basically all-time high for Bitcoin dominance. So we might have an alt season. I think OSF had this post out that we don't know if there's going to be one, but if it's going to be probably pretty quick and brutal. So if you want to have an alt back, you should have that. But there's definitely amazing trades to be made on the stock market. Look at this Robinhood chart, up 112% over the last 6 months to $85 from its lows at $35 just back in March, which is utterly insane. And today, by the way, the stock is up 2.6% on the pre-market. So I suppose that is to do with the announcement that we'll see later today. Also, similar picture if we were to look at the Coinbase chart. Let me get that up as well. There we go, up 33% over the month, up 60% over the last year. So definitely some very good action to be had on the stock market. Circle the same.
Hood's taken a little bit of the wind out of the sails of a coin with the perp announcement, stronger. And like I noticed with a little bit of the pullback on some of the Robinhood announcements, like that makes sense logically. If you think Hood's going to continue to be aggressive into this vertical, yeah, that coin would bleed a little bit.
Yeah, but coin is still like at all-time high, basically, more or less. Very close to all-time high.
Okay. I think that's an excellent conversation. That's really, really good. Got like a few concepts there, just concluding to tease them out. One, the key thing we're thinking about at the moment is the value of the dollar going down, not only against crypto, our favorite crypto, against other currencies. How do you manage that? Whether that's a little bit more in your home currency, whether that's a bit more in gold. That's the thing we're working through at the moment. I think a little bit more in gold, it will be wise for me personally. I don't know. Depends on your personal portfolio, how that works out. And then the second thing is this alt season, the fabled alt season that everyone needs to happen. Sure, there will be some coins that move aggressively within crypto, but the stock market's looking pretty nice for some of these crypto companies that are recently IPO'd or they've been around for a while and ready to take advantage of a market which is very much wanting exposure to crypto, given the presidency and the current administration's bullish remarks around the industry. So two thoughts to leave you with today. Hope you enjoyed the show as usual. Reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour live on X video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify if that is how you prefer to catch up with your content. Thanks again to Legendary and Bread for their fantastic co-hosting abilities and analysis. Thanks to Phunky and English today for their contributions. And thank you so much for joining us in the audience, whether you're on Twitter Spaces, on YouTube, or consuming somewhere else at some other time. Big shout out to the commentors on YouTube and X too. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.